Hello! Today I will be making an old-fashioned mincemeat pie. Mincemeat is a kind of dessert pie that originated in England, which is served during Thanksgiving in the US and Christmas. The oldest mincemeat recipes date back to around the 1400 CE, and the one I will be using is from the 1790s. Old-fashioned mincemeat recipes typically include meat and are generally similar, having dried fruits, spices, and beef. However, after the 18th century, a more hygienic version of that pie that excluded the beef started to be made more. This version is often called fruit-based mincemeat, or sometimes just mince. Meat-based mincemeat pie is usually put into little tarts, but it can be made in the normal 9-inch pie pans too, which is what I will be doing. I've made the fruit-based version of this pie a few times before, but this is my first time making it with meat. I learned about mincemeat from my uncle, who makes one for Christmas every year. Starting with the crust, you will need 1 1/4 cups flour, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/3 cup cold butter or lard, and 4 to 5 tablespoons of cold water. And for the filling, 1 pound of beef, 3/4 tablespoon salt, 1 1/2 pounds, which is about 3 cups of peeled and chopped apples, 1/3 cup butter or lard, 3/4 cup apple cider, 1 tablespoon of ground mace or nutmeg, 1/2 tablespoon of ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1/2 cup of raisins, 1/2 cup of dried currants, or an additional 1/2 cup of raisins if you don't have currants, and a top and bottom pie crust to fit a 9-inch pie pan. First, to make the crust, mix your flour and salt together in a medium-sized bowl. Then, cut up the butter and put it in, and mix using your hands or a pastry cutter. When the mixture resembles coarse crumbs or peas, carefully add the water, 1 tablespoon at a time, forming a rough ball, but not too much, or you'll make a sticky mess. If this does happen, just add more flour. Then you wrap it up and put it into the fridge to set for at least an hour before rolling it out. Generously flour the countertop and roll out the dough until it's a few inches wider than your 9-inch pie pan. You may need to flour the top of the dough as you roll to prevent it from sticking and tearing. Carefully lift up and place the dough into your pan and trim around the edges if needed, but leave an overhang around the edges of the pan. Make sure you poke some small holes in the bottom as well so the filling doesn't bubble out the sides. You can put the bottom crust into the fridge or leave it sitting out as you make the filling. Now, before you start on the filling, preheat the oven to 400 degrees. Then, if you choose to use ground beef, you should brown the meat in a large saucepan over medium heat and add the salt in with the meat. If using other cuts of meat, boil the meat first, then chop it finely into small pieces. Don't forget to separate the grease, but don't let it go down the drain. Combine the chopped apples, butter, or chopped suet/lard, cider, spices, and fruit into the pan and mix well on low heat until all ingredients are thoroughly combined. Then, pour the mincemeat filling inside your bottom pie crust, spreading it evenly. Now, roll out the rest of your dough to cover the top. Make sure you poke some holes in the top too. I like to put an egg wash over my pie crust by cracking an egg into a bowl, mixing the yolk and white together, and using a basting brush to wash the crust. Finally, put some foil around the crust so it doesn't burn, and put it into the oven for 45 minutes or until the crust looks golden brown. While making this pie, I wasn't sure if it would be good with meat. I haven't tried many dishes that mix fruit and meat, but I've heard combos like that can work pretty well.
Yeah, that's not bad.
But nonetheless, I didn't quite expect it to taste like it did, and I was excited to try it baked with the crust, which was also very good. The beef texture was a bit odd, but I could hardly taste it with the fruit and cinnamon and cider. It did add a little too much liquid, though. It started dripping through the foil onto the bottom of the oven while it was baking. Next time, I will both use less cider and put some foil at the bottom of the oven in case it does start leaking again. It smelled really good, though. I hadn't tried this crust recipe before either. It was very good. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day.